really enjoying this so far. I might be speaking too soon, but this book is giving me the same feelings that Babel did. The book is so good. I think this might be a 5-star read for me. I need book 2. I need it. I need it like I need oxygen. I can't wait for it to arrive in the mail tomorrow. This is one of the most beautiful books I've read.
Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. We have a slightly different video for you today because I have been watching so many cozy book talk and booktube creators and it has influenced me. Last year, I thought about starting my own dedicated booktube channel, and making more book talk content, and I decided that I didn't want to do it in a formal way, but I do want to do it in an informal way, which means that I just want to do it for fun. And one of the creators that I've been really loving recently is Emmy. Emmy is a friend of my friend Becca. I actually got to meet her last week, and she does these 24-hour reading challenges, and these aren't new to the booktube community, but they may be new to you. So basically, we are going to pick a couple of different books together, and then I am going to be setting a 24-hour timer and recording active reading time. So I will be pausing the timer when I am eating, sleeping, going out with my partner, whatever it may be. But I always hesitated to film a 24-hour reading challenge because I just honestly don't have that much time on the weekends. However, what's different about this time is that my partner is out for the night. He is off with his friends, which means that I have some beautiful, quiet, alone time with Musif to just sit on the couch, put on an ambiance playlist, and just like luxuriate in some reading. And so we have a pretty hefty stack of books that we're going to decide what we're going to be reading from. So here is the stack, and I also have books on my Kindle. So we're going to go through them and we're going to decide what I'm going to read. These are all fantasy novels, and all of them kind of intimidate me because, as you may know, fantasy novels tend to be quite long. But there are a few of these that I have already started, and one thing that's really great about a reading challenge is that you can just bust through so many pages. So first we have The Sword of Kaelyn by M.L. Wong. I have 2 books by M.L. Wong here. I absolutely love the way that this is written. I started reading it a couple of months ago because it was one of the most highly recommended books in early 2024. This is basically set at a military school. I can't remember all of the plot points, but it is meant to be one of the best fantasy novels of the year. Basically everybody that I follow on Book Talk that I really trust has recommended this one. And I'm about 100 pages in, actually exactly 100 pages in. And this one is thick. It's like 600-ish pages. Yeah, about 600 pages. So this is a contender. The other book that we have as a contender is Quicksilver by Callie Hart. This is one that was recommended all over Book Talk as one of the leading romantasy novels. It's, I believe, indie published, at least that's what it feels like from the way that it's bound. But I'm about 50% of the way in. It's got Fae, it's got good old Shadow Daddy, it's apparently quite spicy, except I'm not at that part yet. However, the banter so far has been really good. I really enjoyed the first half, and the only reason I put it down is because I'm a mood reader, and for some reason I got halfway through and just decided to pick something else up. So I think this is definitely one that I want to read this weekend because I don't actually have that much left of it. And even though it is a thick book, I remember the first half going really quickly. The other book that I have on the list is Immortal Dark by Tejas Gurma. This is a vampire university setting kind of novel. It's honestly very complicated to explain, but it's got a little bit of mystery, whodunit. The vampire system's very different in this book than most vampire-human interactions that I've seen. Let's see, how far am I into this? I'm about 120 pages in, and I think this is probably about a 500-er. Yeah, but almost exactly 500 pages. So that's a contender. I'm not feeling like super stoked on it, so I'm gonna set that aside. Just as I'm going through these, I'm noticing, you know, what I feel drawn to. The other one that has been making its rounds on TikTok, and I saw Emmy reading it, was A Kiss of Iron, which is in the Shadow of the Tenebrous Court series by Claire Sager. In the cutthroat game of court life, masters manipulate pawns and you never know which one you are. One thing is certain, there is no space on the board for love. This just sounds really interesting, and I will say that I know that there are certain people that reject anything popular. My partner is one of them. He refuses to read anything that is popular. My friend Kate is also similar, but I really love hype. So if it's people that I trust, And it seems like the reviews that they have provided are quite in-depth and seem interesting. Then it is something that I tend to get excited about. That's a contender. It's thick though. Okay, it's about 500 pages, and to be fair, there's not a ton of text per page. That's gonna go on the contending list. From Blood and Ash by Jennifer Armentrout. This is one that I've seen making the rounds, and the problem is that a lot of people say that the writing is not very good, but the actual plot and characters are very interesting. So, not sure how to feel about it. I was reading this morning. I tried to get through a couple more pages, and I think I was introduced to one of the main male characters. I'm intrigued. This list is looking very romantasy heavy. We also have Blood Over Bright Haven by Emma Wong. This is the same author as Sword of Kaelyn. This is one that I have had on back order for forever. It says, the first woman ever admitted to a prestigious order of mages unravels a secret conspiracy that could change the practice of magic forever, in the standalone dark fantasy from the author of the Sword of Kaelyn. God, this one sounds good too. Okay, this actually isn't as thick as it looks. It's only about 400 pages. I'm gonna have a really hard time making a decision, because we also have 2 books on my Kindle. Now, I am going to exclude Hermione fan fiction because I've really gotten into it recently, but they are long as hell. So I will not be going down the Hermione fan fiction realm for this particular video, but I am going to do a video on fan fiction. Ooh, everybody and their mother is talking about Heartless Hunter of the Crimson Moth series. That might have to be the one. Everybody seems to be really interested in it, and it is witchy. I wish it was really easy to like actually find the description. I think it's like a witch and a witch hunter, if I'm not mistaken. I also started Ruin, and that book is weird. That is by Gillian Elizabeth. I also really want to read Metal Slinger because that's one that's also been making the rounds in the romantasy world. Okay, now is the moment of truth. What are we deciding? I'm gonna put this aside because it just got here, and so I can put it on the TBR. And from these books, the one I'm most excited about is honestly A Kiss of Iron. So I'm gonna put Sword of Kaelyn, From Blood and Ash, and Quicksilver on the back burner, and then we'll decide. I might regret not having a palate cleanser, but I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna make up a cup of tea, I'm gonna put on an ambiance playlist, and then we're gonna crack open this book. Sorry if you can hear fireworks behind me, but so far I am really enjoying A Kiss of Iron. I am only on page 25 and I've been reading for about 20 minutes, so not very long, but so far we know a little bit that Kat is essentially running out of money, that she is a landed aristocrat. However, her husband has horribly mismanaged their fortune and has left her with, I believe, 2 staff members, and the house is about to get seized. So now she has to come up with a way to solve the problem of where to live and get enough money to stay at the estate. One thing I have found with reading indie authors in particular is that sometimes introductory paragraphs aren't quite as gripping, just because I don't think that they receive as much editing. This could be entirely wrong, but I'm really enjoying the beginning of this one. And that's not to say that all indie books don't have the best beginning, but I've had a few that I've read recently that the beginning could get some work. But I'm really enjoying this so far, even though I'm only, 25 pages in. But I ordered myself a sweet treat because I'm here home alone, and I ordered a little boba and a slice of cake because I already had dinner. Wait for that to arrive, and I'm just gonna keep on reading. All right, we're an hour in. I feel like I paused a bunch because I got a call from my friend Danielle. I did a little bit of journaling because I'm trying to basically do a journaling prompt every day for the month of November, and forgot to do it this morning, even though it's the 1st of November, so already slipping through the cracks, but I'm really enjoying this so far. It is giving me Throne of Glass vibes. The reason I say that is because she has been called to the court of the queen. And I find it really interesting when it's very obvious that somebody's taking inspiration from a particular era of history or a particular setting, because she has to travel to London, which is spelled Lunden, to go meet Queen Elizabeth. Could have been a little bit more inventive there. But anyway, the main character, Kat, has come to court and she just doesn't have the means to dress well, and she has basically been given a mission by the spy master of the Queen's court to spy on these two seeming diplomats from the Fey nations. And it's just giving court intrigue in the same way that Throne of Glass did. And I'm really enjoying it. I will admit I was struggling a bit at first, but I'm now about 70 pages in. We're now into the court drama and I'm really into it. So I am gonna keep on reading for as long as I want to, because my partner's out late with his friends and normally I would get into bed really early, but since autumn, I've been staying up much later, and I think it's just because the days are so short that when I wake up really early, I just don't get any sunlight before work starts. And so I've just been staying up later, waking up later, but that's okay. It's also a weekend now, so I'm gonna take advantage. And I'm gonna go ahead and keep on reading, and I'll give you another reading update shortly. Good morning. It is about 9 a.m., 9:20. I got to about 90 pages last night, read about 10 pages this morning, so I'm at page 100, and we are an hour and 45 minutes into the reading challenge. So in an hour and 45 minutes, I read 100 pages, so read a little slower at the end. But London Boy and I are heading out for our Saturday pastry run that we do every Saturday that we're back in London. So we are going to head to one of our favorite spots, Layla. I'm gonna take the book with me on the tube and continue the reading challenge as I'm on the go, and I'll let you know where we end up. But I'm gonna go read on the tube, and I'll check in when I get back home.
And now it's time for a brief break to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Squarespace, as well as an exciting update for those of you book lovers. Now first, let's chat about Squarespace. Squarespace is an online website builder which is fully customizable, and regardless of your design expertise, Squarespace has a variety of templates, resources, and tools to help you launch your first website without any coding experience necessary. In fact, I built my first website on Squarespace about 5 years ago, and today I'm excited to announce that my Squarespace site is now fully equipped with a blog and newsletter, which will include my new bookshelf section. So that way you can follow along my recent and current, as well as upcoming reads. My Squarespace site has been through so many adaptations and iterations over the years, and it is thanks to the features with Squarespace, including the blog and customizable formats, that my website has been able to grow with me. So if you're interested in building a website for yourself, then I can recommend no other website host than Squarespace. If you're interested in checking out Squarespace for yourself, go ahead and click on the link in the description for a discount on your website or domain. Now let's head on back to the vlog.
All right, we are home from our outing, which means that I have added another 45 minutes of reading that we did in between. I'm on page 137, so for about 40 minutes of reading, that's not bad. That's about a page a minute. I got some tea and used up my Waterstones gift cards from my birthday. Placed a big old book haul, which was very exciting. So if you want to see the book haul, then it's probably going to be in the next vlog, because I'm assuming it'll arrive over the next week or so. But I'm going to keep digging into Kiss of Iron. I will say nothing much has happened. It's really doing a lot to set up the plot and the kind of interpersonal dynamics between the FMC and the MMC. I have a nice little ambiance playlist in the background. London Boy is working on a cooking project, and I'm going to get to reading. There we go. All right, London Boy and I have had a nice little reading session. He finished his book, and I'm on page 257 of A Kiss of Iron, which is about 50% of the way in. And we have 18 hours and 25 minutes remaining. It's time to dig into the brownie before I give you the reading update. Well, it's hot. Oh. Hot. The flavor is really good. Okay, so now for the reading update. Kat has been given an assignment by the Spy Master to strike up a relationship with our MMC, who is a fae from another nation. And there has been a murder in the castle, or in the court, and they're both trying to figure out who did it. I love that this book has a variety of tropes, like kind of forced proximity, it's got the one bed trope, all of that, but it does it in a really fun way. And also there's not been a crazy amount of spice yet, but it is spicy. It doesn't take itself too seriously, which I really like, because I sometimes get kind of icked out when the spicy scenes are trying to take it a little too seriously. Like, I like the banter between the two characters. It just makes me giggle. Like, it's funny to me reading through it. I'm trying to think of an example of a fantasy novel where I didn't really like the spice. I think maybe Quicksilver, but I don't remember reading it well enough to fully back that up. But I do love a spicy romantasy book. However, I really like the way it is done in this book so far. Honestly, this has been a really fun time. I'm really looking forward to finishing it. So I have about 50% of the book remaining, and I still have quite a bit of energy for today. And I think I was a little ambitious thinking I could do a full 24-hour reading challenge when we were out for most of today. But I am hosting the Silent Book Club for Accepted Society tomorrow in London. So I will be doing some reading there, but I'm also assuming I'm going to be doing a lot of socializing. I'm going to keep on reading. I'm hoping that I can finish, but that might be a tad ambitious. But honestly, if I'm just focused in and I've got a sweet treat, I might be able to. So I'm gonna go ahead, finish or continue reading A Kiss of Iron, and I'm hoping that we'll have another book that we can read tomorrow, because I would really love if this 24-hour reading challenge would include at least 2 books, but we'll see. I'm not the fastest reader in the world. I'm not the slowest, but I'm certainly not the fastest. So let's get back to reading. It is now the next day. We are 9.5 hours into our reading challenge. I am almost done with A Kiss of Iron. This book is so good. I think, dare I say it, I think this is gonna be a 5-star. And as Emmy says, 5 stars is a feeling, and I've got a feeling that this might be one of my most highly rated fantasy romantasy novels of 2024. So I am just gonna sit here and binge the rest of it. I think I only have about 75 pages left, and then we've got to pick the next book. I will admit that I already ordered the second book, and it's arriving tomorrow because I'm obsessed and I need to know what happens after this book. So I'm really excited. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and sit here and finish this book so that way we can move on to hopefully book number 2 of this reading challenge. And if it's a shorter book, I think I might actually be able to read 3. That might be wishful thinking. That might be getting a little ahead of myself. But considering that I read this tome in about 10 hours, I think we might be able to get through 2 shorter books. Anywho, I might be getting ahead of myself, so let's go ahead and read. All right, we have finished book 1 of this reading challenge. I did it in 10 hours. A Kiss of Iron by Claire Sager. I need book 2. I need it. I need it like I need oxygen. I can't wait for it to arrive in the mail tomorrow. This is, dare I say, I think this is going in like my god tier romantasy novels. This was so much fun. I love the court intrigue. It gave me Throne of Glass, but like a little bit more spicy. There's a little bit more romance to it. Oh, so good. The ending, not a massive cliffhanger, like I need to know what happens, but I know everything's going to be okay, whereas sometimes you get a cliffhanger that's just like, it just grips you. And this is a good cliffhanger, but not like crazy. I think I have my next 2 books. So I was looking through the stack that I showed you at the beginning of the video. I really do want to read Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wong, but this one's a slightly thicker book. Oh, it's about 400 pages. It's about the same length, but I'm gonna add something new to the lineup. So this is a book that I started, but I haven't gotten very far in. This is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This is set in 4 different Londons, and there is this man, Kel, who's able to go between them as, I think, a diplomat. It says, Kel is one of the last travelers, magicians with a rare ability to travel between parallel universes connected by one magical city. There's Grey London without magic and ruled by the Mad King George III. And as an early modern historian and as somebody who studied the 18th century, I appreciate the reference. Red London, where magic is revered and where Kel was raised alongside the heir to the Empire. White London, where people fight to control the remaining magic and magic fights back. And once there was Black London. So I'm very intrigued by this book. And to be honest, I just keep putting it off. It's one that I've really wanted to read, but for some reason just haven't dedicated the time to. This is not necessarily a super short book, but it's about 400 pages. And because this is a 600 page tome, I want to read something a little bit shorter. So I think I'm gonna read A Darker Shade of Magic, and then hopefully Blood Over Brighthaven. I doubt I'm going to be able to finish this 24-hour reading challenge this weekend. I'm probably going to have to continue it into the week, but we're still going to finish this video because I've been wanting to film one of these for forever. So we have about 14 hours left, and it's time to get reading. All right, it's several hours later. London Boy and I went to a yoga class, so let's see how much time we've got left on this timer. No! God damn it, it quit my timer. I had like 13 and a half hours left, I think. Not good. Anyway, so I apparently lost my timer, but anyway, I have been reading A Darker Shade of Magic, and I will say I am about 70 pages in, and I'm not feeling super convinced. I know this is one that people really love, but it's not gripping me. I'm going to keep reading because I am normally a mood reader, and so I would get to this point and feel kind of bored and would not continue, and then would not pick this book up for another 6 months. But I'm gonna push and try to get to at least 150 pages. Around 150 to 200 pages is when I tend to decide whether or not I'm going to DNF something. And I really don't want to DNF this because I know that so many people really love it. So I'm sure that there's a reason that they love it. I'm just not understanding right this second. So I'm gonna keep on going, start the timer. I apparently messed it up, and so I'm gonna say I had 13 and a half hours left. It's definitely not getting finished tonight, especially because I have to be up very early for work tomorrow. So I'm gonna get to reading. I feel like I gave it a valiant effort, but I'm DNFing A Darker Shade of Magic. I got to about 120 pages and it's just not doing it for me. I don't really know what the plot is yet. I don't really feel hooked or interested in the characters. I'm at that point in my life where if I'm not enjoying a book, I will not force myself to continue reading it. I will, however, get myself to the point where I at least hit about 100 pages before I make that decision, but it's not doing it for me. So now we're going to turn to Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma Wong. And like I said when I started the video, this is the first woman ever admitted to a prestigious order of mages unravels a secret conspiracy that could change the practice of magic forever. That just sounds really fun. It's got a beautiful little map in the end pages. I'm gonna go ahead and give this the beginning of a read before I have to head to bed. I accidentally let the timer keep going, so I think I'm probably at 12 hours 45 minutes remaining. I'm gonna go ahead and just crack into this. I probably won't check in for the rest of this evening because I do have to wake up ridiculously early for work, and I just want to read a little bit before I call it a night. So I'm gonna give myself about 30 to 45 minutes to read. Then I'll continue the reading challenge through the beginning of this next week. It's not as wrapped up as quickly as I would like, but it's really fun filming a bookish video and just chatting about books. And I still can't get over A Kiss of Iron. It's so good. So maybe I'll finish this and then the new book will arrive and then I can read the second book by Clara Sager. So anywho, let's get to reading. We have an update. Now, here's the thing. I did not complete my reading challenge over the weekend that I began filming this, and I kept recording anytime I was actively reading, and I am down to 4 remaining hours, and I have completed books 1 and books 2. So I finished A Kiss of Iron, and then the week after I read this book, I ordered and read all of A Touch of Poison. This one is a 5-star read. This one I would give 4.25. I really did enjoy it. I really enjoyed the characters. I loved getting to understand the world. It wasn't as good as the first one. Now that being said, I think that's just because I really like really slow burn tension, and I feel like the first book really did that well. This ended on a really fun cliffhanger though, so I'm curious what the next book is gonna be like. I think it comes out at the end of December, but I was just texting with my friend Jess about it, and she said that there's a spin-off series that is based on Kat's sister. So Kat's sister makes an appearance in the first book. She is like a pirate queen. I might just need to pick up that book because I'm really enjoying the way that Claire Sager writes. Even though this is a very thick book, both of these are very thick. They go by very quickly. It is incredibly readable. I read parts of it on my Kindle. I read parts of it physical just because it was easier to read on the go. But I still have 4 remaining hours, and I did start Blood Over Brighthaven. I had paused in order to read A Touch of Poison just because I was a bit on a roll, but I have started this, and I have 4 remaining hours in the reading challenge, and we are currently on page 66. I might be speaking too soon, but this book is giving me the same feelings that Babel did. It's a magical academic system. This is more outside the realms of reality than Babel is, because Babel is set in a reimagined 19th century Victorian Oxford. The magic system in this is so interesting, and I'm still getting into it, but the writing, Emma Wong is just one of the most beautiful writers, and I'm really excited to see how this system builds and plays out. I have 4 more hours in the challenge. I would love to finish this book in that amount of time. Is that going to be entirely possible? We will see. I'm just gonna have to really focus in and get a good playlist going and really dig in. So let's finish off this reading challenge, see if I can finish a 3rd book, and hopefully have 3 books that I can add to my have read list in 2024 by the end of today's video. It is the next day. It is Saturday. We are on page 105 in Blood Over Brighthaven, and we have 3 hours and 20 minutes remaining on our timer. So I'm not sure we're gonna actually get it done, but we're gonna continue the reading challenge and hopefully finish it, or at least get close, because I have a lot of other books that I want to read. I'm gonna do a quick book haul for you in this vlog because I'm not vlogging this weekend, and my partner and I just went to Waterstones on Piccadilly and I got a lot of books. I had to move you over to the coffee table because you were not very stable on the couch. So we have a nice stack. Got 4 books. First is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. This is one that has been making the rounds. I know that she did like a meetup type thing with, I think, Fairy Loot a couple weeks ago, and I actually don't know very much about it, but it says Leia is a scholar living under the iron-fisted rule of the Martial Empire. When her brother is arrested in the dead of night for treason and her loved one slain, Leia must go undercover as a slave at the Empire's greatest military academy in exchange for assistance from those who claim that they can save her brother from execution. It just seems incredibly relevant to the discourse at the moment that is happening on social media, which is this conversation about whether or not books are political, which feels really dumb that it's even a conversation, to be honest. But books like this have been put on a lot of reading lists that people have been using to engage in the discussion about how reading actually is a political act. I don't know if Emmy or Tammy have read it. I haven't seen very many people review it yet, but it just seemed incredibly relevant to that conversation, and also I've just been really interested because I've seen it around, but I hadn't ever picked it up, so I'm curious to dive in. The second book that I got is The Book of Azriel by Amber Nicole. This is urban fantasy, and I personally really like urban fantasy. It doesn't really feel like something I would enjoy, but the urban fantasy books that I have read so far, I've really enjoyed, and this is a series that I've seen highly recommended. There's another series that's also urban fantasy that's been making the rounds, and I can't remember the name of it. I think it's like Monsters and Gods or something like that, but this seemed like the good kind of segue into more urban fantasy. And the third book I got is The Crimson Moth by Kristen Cicerelli. This has been everywhere, and this is a witch and a witch hunter, I believe. In America, I think it's called The Heartless Hunter. It has a very different cover, but it is called The Crimson Moth in the UK. The second book comes out in the new year, if I'm not mistaken, and especially given that it's November and we're still kind of keeping with the autumn spooky witchy vibes for the books, I really wanted to read this one. So right now I feel like I'm in a very academic witchy reading mood. I was rereading Discovery of Witches. I'm reading Blood Over Brighthaven. I really want to do a reread of Babel, but there's just so many good books to read. And this is one that I definitely want to read. Not next, because the next book I'm going to show you is what I'm going to read next. But I think I might read it after this next one. And this is one that I wasn't expecting to get when we went in. This is By Any Other Name by, I believe it's Judy Picoult. I don't know if I'm saying that perfectly correctly. This is not what I expected. I just saw it on the shelf and read the description and immediately knew I had to have it. It's set in Elizabethan London. It's about a woman named Amelia who becomes a playwright and she can't get her work published, and she basically teams up with Shakespeare in order to front her work. It is a modern day scholar, I think. No, a modern day Manhattan playwright who discovers Amelia's work and recognizes that she had fronted her work via William Shakespeare. This is just my perfect book. Obviously I haven't read it yet, but from the synopsis, I love a book that talks about early modern history, talks about gender, and also has some kind of discovery element. There was another book I read, I think it's Horse by Geraldine Brooks, which had a very similar structure where you're jumping back and forth to a modern day scholar of some kind who is discovering something isn't quite right in the record. Then you jump back in time to these events taking place, and I really love that narrative structure. And so this was on the shelf, it just hooked me. And it's set in Elizabethan London, which is obviously where a lot of my research is set. So, well, maybe not obviously. My research starts in Elizabethan England and then becomes a 17th century study. But anyway, that is my little book haul. I am sure this vlog is very long because I just can't stop talking about books, but hopefully you enjoy it. And I think the plan is that after I finish Blood Over Bright Haven, which will probably be the conclusion of this vlog, I want to do another vlog reading that book. Probably read Crimson Moth afterward, but I just have so many great books to read at the moment. I just feel like I was in such a reading slump over the summer, and maybe it's because my mental health has not been fine. I also feel like the winter just always brings about some really fantastic book releases. You know, wanting to be inside and wanting to feel a little bit more cozy, curled up with a book. Maybe that has something to do with it. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead, start the timer, keep reading Blood Over Bright Haven. We are at the point in the book where she has been accepted into the program for high mages. She's the first woman to ever do so, and she is coming up against a lot of prejudice by her male colleagues, and she has brought on an assistant who, I'm not gonna give any spoilers, but she has some prejudice against him and his, what I would present as his ethnicity. I'm curious how this is gonna play out, but it feels so much like the way I felt when I read Babel. It's beautifully written, the characters are really strong, and you can just tell that there's going to be quite a lot of evolution within the book, and, you know, discovering that the institution that she is a part of, that she is a perpetrator of, is, you know, committing atrocities. And this is why, my friends, books are in fact political. There's many reasons. We can make an entire video about it, but this vlog is specifically for reading, and I'm gonna go ahead and dig in. Okay, it is much later, and I haven't gotten that much reading done, to be honest, because I fell asleep. But the relationship between the main character, Sayana, and her assistant, Tamil, is, I perhaps think, one of the most important relationships in this book, because I think she's going to see that a lot of the ways that she feels oppressed and the ways that she feels that there's prejudice placed against her, that she's up against, is not the same, but is hypocritical because of the way that she views and treats and thinks of Tamil. I'm assuming there's going to be some form of reckoning, but there's all of these moments with these microaggressions where he remains silent and she just does not understand or even have the self-awareness to acknowledge the hypocrisy of how she's speaking about her own position in this institution and her feelings of being disenfranchised as a woman. And it's just, this is one of the most beautiful books I've read in a long time. I have to say, this particular vlog has just pulled out some real winners. Obviously, A Kiss of Iron is a very different type of romantasy novel. It touches court politics, but it doesn't really think about, conceptions of empire and gender. And though it does talk about the disenfranchisement of women, it doesn't really delve into how other beings, other people experience prejudice. And I started reading The Sword of Kaelyn. I think I'm probably about a third of the way through it by M.L. Wong, but I hadn't finished it. And I know that one is very much about, the propaganda that is perpetrated by the hegemonic society, hegemonic empire. This book has a very different setting and a very different magic system and kind of social construct. M.L. Wong has a way of writing that just reminds me so much of the consciousness that is present in books like Babel. This may be one of the best books that I've read this year, and I'm only like a quarter, maybe a third of the way through it now, and I just think that this is one that is going to make it on the top of many people's lists for 2024. So I'm gonna keep on reading. I keep trying to flip through different ambiance playlists because it's a very particular kind of read. I normally listen to like jazz, or I'll like put on the Rivendell ambiance playlist on YouTube when I'm reading fantasy, but I'm not finding the right vibe. And maybe I need to like find a dark academia playlist or something, because that feels maybe a bit better. But it's just so good. It's just so good. I am not even done with it, and I am telling you, you need to read this, because it would have to take a really serious turn for me not to think that this is about to be a 5-star read. I'm going to keep digging in. It is difficult because the magic system itself is very complex, but it's so good. Okay, new playlist. Keep on reading. I'll give you a reading update when we are near to the end.
We have officially ended the reading challenge. I have hit the time. I did not finish Blood Over Brighthaven in time, but I am almost done with it. And so I wanted to give the beginnings of my review. I haven't read the ending, so I do want to do an actual review of the book. I'm probably going to do it over on Book Talk. As you saw, I started the vlog reading A Kiss of Iron by Claire Sager. This was a 5-star read for me. And the reason it was a 5-star read was because it was just a fun time. It just reminded me of getting into reading again, getting into Romantasy, and just finding the kind of like heel-kicking, giggly joy of just some silly banter and some fae fantasy. So if you are somebody who really likes Romantasy, wants something that's just a little bit fun, that has the court intrigue element, then I do highly recommend this one. The second book in the series is A Touch of Poison. And this one I'm going to give a 4.25 stars. It was really enjoyable to experience the expanse of this world and to understand the politics. And there was a little bit of yearning and romantic intrigue, but it wasn't as like fun and giggly as the first book, which is understandable. There's more depth, there's more at stake, there's more characters that we're introduced to, and it did have an interesting cliffhanger at the end, as the second book in a trilogy often does. But I really enjoyed it, and I'm really excited to finish the series when the third book comes out, I think December 31st. And I do highly recommend the series, especially if you, like I said, are a Romantasy reader and enjoy reading about, court politics and that kind of intrigue. And it is fun. It's just fun. Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma Wong, on the other hand, I can't even begin to articulate how important books like this are. I haven't felt this way about a book since reading Babel. Not only is the magic system really interesting, but like the connection to concepts of colonialism and exploitation and cultural erasure and assimilation and just all of these really resonant themes, especially as somebody that studies American history and the British Empire. It's just so important for us to read books by diverse authors that incorporate themes that are resonant in our day-to-day lives, because this book has really made me think a lot. And as you can see, I've like tabbed the hell out of it. And there's a lot of things that I've highlighted, because what's really well done about this book, and I'm going to try to make this spoiler free, but what's really important about this book is how it is the colonizer, the oppressor, like plays victim, and how it is that a society is built on this moral conception of being supposedly well-meaning and having good intentions, and that somehow outweighs really horrific action. It's just been really making me think about my own position as a white woman, especially a white woman that studies the history of slavery, that has gone into the field of Black studies. And it just makes me really reflect on my own actions and my own approach. And it just presents it in such a way that really gave me pause, and I just think is so important. And I'm almost done with the book. I wanted to finish it last night, but didn't quite. I just think this is going to be my top book of the year. So if you want the full review, it's coming. It'll be in my 2024 wrap up. But that is the end of today's reading challenge vlog. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you enjoy seeing a little bit more bookish content on my channel. And I'm going to go ahead and end off the video here. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring. If you want to see more bookish content on my website and what I'm currently reading, then everything is going to be linked down below. You can check out kaelynapple.com in order to see what I recommend and what is currently on the TBR, which is very long. And I'll see you all next time. Thank you, friends.